Okay, so welcome to the session on strategic case study as we spend some time to look at some of the few things that we need to understand to put ourselves and prepare adequately for the examination. And I believe that so far you have gone through some of the key issues that you need to understand, because the purpose of our discussion will just draw home some of the points and then also address some of the few key issues that may come up that we need to look at, especially during the discussion and review of the pre-scene discussion when it comes to the case study examination. So, few things quickly to share my thoughts on, then we can go. Our discussion, as you have been aware of, as you have been going through some of the videos, are primarily coming in from our strategic case study manual. So that's where primarily our discussions will be coming from the case study. And then also to let you understand the syllabus structure when it comes to dealing with strategic case study. Primarily, the syllabus is divided into 5 areas, although we can have different variants of it. First key issue has to do with strategic analysis, about 20% weighing of the syllabus. Now, this is a very significant aspect of the syllabus that we need to be mindful of and understand very well. And here it's more or less about intelligence gathering, trying to understand the internal and external environment for the of the entity. And a couple of models are crucial here, like the PESTLE framework, the Porter's 5 forces, the SWOT analysis, stakeholder mapping, and a couple of other issues that we need to know about. The second phase is going to be strategic choice. So, what are the alternative choices available to the entity for the period under review in order for the entity to move ahead? And that is evaluating the various alternative choices that the entity can undertake, meaning where are we going from here? Couple of modules are also available here that we need to be mindful of. The unsolved metrics, the BCG metrics, the Porter's generic strategies, corporate culture, very important here, cultural web, very important here. So quite, significant issues and topics that we need to look at here. Then the third area is going to be strategy into action. That's also about 25%. Has to do with the implementation. So this is where we're going to look at issues about change management and various other issues about strategy implementation. So the McKinsey 7S model will be here. The balance scorecard will be here. Business plan and other issues are going to be here generically when we talk about the issue in respect of the strategic case study. So these three together get us 60% of the syllabus. The other 40% relates to governance, 20 marks, and then the financial perspective in case study, also 20 coming up. Now, corporate governance, very significant area. We're going to be getting into that. But then the idea about the financial perspective will usually be the things that you have done already. So remember, strategic case study is actually a measure or bringing knowledge on the various areas. So some of the things you learned or studied in management accounting will be valuable here. Some of the things you learned in financial management will be valuable here. Some of the things you learned in corporate reporting will be valuable here when it comes to strategic case study. So in the financial perspective aspect, some of the issues in financial management that you learned about the decisions that the financial manager assists the entity to make will be valuable here. So investment appraisal, dividend decisions, issues about foreign exchange risk management, hedging techniques, those things. You learn them in financial management. So you are expected to know them. And in the exam hall, the examiner could bring a question about them, and you should be in the position to be able to answer it. And so if you check under the key summary videos, you will see that in the key summary videos, we have videos explaining some of these financial management principles because they are crucial and you are supposed to know about them. In addition to that, in the financial perspective also, we could have issues about preparation of budget, so the cash flow forecast. So if the entity is seeking to undertake a strategic plan and they want to prepare a business plan, as part of the business plan preparation, you need to prepare a cash flow forecast. The cash budget preparation, you learned it under management accounting. It's the same idea here. Nothing new, nothing different, nothing out of the ordinary. It's the same idea, the same application that you are supposed to apply here. In the financial perspective, same also, evaluation of performance of the organization, it's available there. And so the things that you learned under ratio analysis, strategic case study, we could have ratio analysis. So we could be required to calculate various financial ratios and then analyze the ratios. In addition to the financial ratios, non-financial performance indicators that you learned in corporate reporting when it comes to evaluation of financial statements also will be valuable. So that whole 20 marks area that is going to be the finance perspective, there is nothing there that you've not done already. You've already done them either in financial management, management accounting, or corporate reporting. So in case you have forgotten them, please make sure you take time to review them. Because something from the finance perspective, either in the financial management class, in the management accounting class, or in the corporate reporting class, will be waiting for you in the exam hall. Then the issue about governance on the overall, we're going to have governance on the overall, and even some issues about governance, you've learned some of them in corporate reporting already, because corporate reporting now has governance. And so you're expected to have studied those things. So even the governance in strategic case study, just the additional aspects that is not in corporate reporting that you are supposed to now look at. Ethical issues. You've learned ethics in corporate reporting. We have ethics here, but unlike corporate reporting where you were looking at the ethical issue from the perspective of just the professional accountant, in strategic case study, we're going to be looking at the ethical issues both from the perspective of the individual professional accountants of the company as well as the entity as a whole, because the entity's production practices must be ethical. All right? Must be ethical at the end of the day. So those are the things that you must understand. So the 20 marks on the finance perspective, everything there, you've done them already. So go back if you have forgotten them, revise them very well to put you in the position so that if you go to the exam and you see something, you can answer it. Then the governance aspect, a portion of it, you know them already from your corporate reporting class. And we are just going to be crystallizing some few things that we need to understand. Even in the finance perspective, there is working capital management there. Again, you did that in financial management. So it's not in case study that we're going to sit down now and come and teach you investment appraiser. Use this method, foreign exchange hedging. We need to use money market hedge. We need to do a forward contract. This is how you do the calculation. This is not the place for that. You have already done that. If you have forgotten, make sure you review that before you get into the exam hall. So basically, that is the idea about our syllabus. Now, the nature of the exam, by now you are aware already, but let me crystallize that. You're going to be having the advanced information, or what we call the pre-sim. There are some students who think that passing case study is about the analysis of the pre-sim. But let me tell you this, nobody cares about your analysis of the pre-sim. That's what you must understand. So the pre-sim is going to be released. The advanced information is going to be released 2 weeks before the exam. And the purpose of the pre-sim is to help you familiarize yourself with the entity in question, understand the environment the entity is operating is in, maybe some challenges that the entity is facing, and various other things. We're going to be getting more into that in the next session as we continue in our discussion. But the purpose of the advanced information is not for you to analyze. So if you are sitting down waiting for pre-scene to be released so that you read analysis of the pre-scene and take the analysis of the pre-scene to go to the exam hall, I can guarantee you 99.99% of the time you will fail the case study exam. And that is one of the key reasons students fail the case study exam. Because they feel like, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of things you are supposed to learn. And they think, oh, let me just wait. Pre-scene is released. Then they can read analysis from Nkulenu, read analysis from Eja Nancy, read analysis from Ato, read analysis from this. And with that, they can take it to the exam hall and pass. No, you're going to fail. So the focus is not about the pre-scene. The focus is about what is in the syllabus. That's all. That's all. So your priority should not be about, hey, analysis of pre-scene. Hey, Debbie. Your focus should be on, do I understand the content in the syllabus? Am I able to know the structuring of the question and how I am supposed to write out my answers? Am I able to write out an answer that will merit the marks that the examiner is going to be giving or awarding? That should be your central focus when it comes to strategic case study. And I'm hammering on this because I know 99.9% of strategic case study students, their mind is just on, let me analyze the case study. If I can get analysis, and you're going to see it. When the pre-scene is released, you're going to see. Some people have analysis, 200 pages, 150 pages, 100 pages, analysis of the pre-scene. Don't waste your time trying to gallivant around on analysis. Do you understand what is in the syllabus? That should be your priority at the end of the day. When you get to the exam hall, you are now going to see the complete case study plus the question. So in the exam hall, you will now see the pre-scene again because you are not supposed to carry any material to the exam hall. So you're going to see the pre-scene plus an additional information with the question. And that is where you have to be careful. Because you see, you can do the pre-scene analysis, reach certain conclusions. Then when you get to the exam hall, the additional information that they will give you may override significant conclusion you had reached about the company. And that is where, if you have not looked at the syllabus, you don't understand the context of the questions, you are not familiar with what goes on in the case study examination, that is where you are going to fail the exam. So this is where you got to be careful. It's good. The advanced information is good. We're going to look at it. It's going to give you some ideas. But in the exam hall, there will be an additional information. And the additional information could change significant portion of the conclusion you had reached prior to entering the exam hall. And Nuntina, I am saying, don't bet yourself on analysis of pre-scene. I don't care who the heck will do the analysis for you, but don't bet yourself on it. Bet yourself on what is in the syllabus, the content in the syllabus, the structuring of the questions, how you expected to write out your answers, the time and planning out of your answers. Those are the things you have to be worried about, not analysis of the pre-scene. So these are some few things that I want to quickly highlight again as we get ourselves into the discussion when it comes to dealing with strategic case study. But the big question we ask ourselves is, why are we here? Like, why what is really the main theme of strategic case study? The strategic case study examination has a number of themes, or syllabus has a number of themes. The first theme of the strategic case study is helping the company to achieve competitive advantage. What does that mean? Helping our company to achieve competitive advantage simply means that the company, number one, can achieve market leadership. It means becoming the number one player in the market. That's competitive advantage. Sometimes can be referred to as competitive edge. The second thing about achieving competitive advantage is becoming a preferred brand. So that when everybody is thinking about that product, that service, they will call on our brand, the preferred brand. Then the third thing about achieving competitive advantage is certainly becoming the industry benchmark. So that now the competitors, the players in the market will look at you and they follow your lead and they reference what you do and become a reference point, the standard for them to also decide, hey, Charlie, we need to up our game because this person is doing A, B, or C. So that is a crucial theme when it comes to the strategic case study examination. The fact that companies want to gain sustainable competitive advantage. Okay. The question we then have to ask ourselves is, how do we gain sustainable competitive advantage? And Nuntina, we have to, number one, undertake strategic analysis. We need to assess our environment. We need to know where we are now as a company. After assessing the environment, the external environment, the internal environment, where we are now, our strengths, our weaknesses, what we can do, what we cannot do, then we ask ourselves the second question. What are the alternative choices available? What are the options available to us based on where we are now, what we have? What are the alternative choices available? That is the second thing. Once we explore the alternative choices, we would then analyze and make a decision on one or two of the choices that we want to undertake. So let me give an example so you understand and appreciate what we are doing here. Let's say that we are a company that wants to gain sustainable competitive advantage. So we want to be a market leader and we sell sanitary pads. Currently, we sell our sanitary pads just in Accra and probably Kumasi. That's all. And we sell it in a mall in Accra, maybe a Chimota mall, and then a mall also in Kumasi. So 2 malls, Accra and Kumasi. That's where we sell our sanitary pad. But hey, we want to increase our market share. We want to increase our profitability as an organization. We want to be heard. We want to become a preferred brand in the market. Okay. The question we then have to ask ourselves is, what are the alternative options available? And that is where we can go for unsolved growth metrics and BCG metrics. So somebody will say, okay, hey, maybe let's advertise more. That's true. That's true. Okay. What else can we do? Let's go and sell the product in other cities because we are in Accra and Kumasi. We can go to Takoradi. We can go to Ho. We can go to Tamale. We can go to Sunyani. Right? So, 1, let's advertise more. 2, let's sell the product in other places. Then somebody can say, hey, maybe the sanitary pad is just one sanitary pad for all. Maybe we can create a variant of it. So we can create sanitary pad that will be favorable for, students so that it has different packaging. Then we'll have sanitary pad that will be for corporate executives. Then we'll have sanitary pad that will be for, people who are located in somewhere else. That's a good strategy. Then another person will say, since we are seeking of expanding and growing, how about selling our sanitary pads outside of Ghana? So all these are alternative strategies, and you are correct. by saying that the company should do this. But in strategic case study, those things you've said, there is a model, there is a framework that gives us guideline on those strategies. And that is where the unsolved growth matrix comes in. And so we can do what is called market penetration strategy. So your advertisement, let's advertise more about the sanitary pad in Accra and Tema. It is market penetration strategy. And we'll come back to it. I'm just, giving you a taste of your own medicine so you understand where we are going. Then he said, hey, let's go sell in other markets, other cities. So let's go and sell in Takrady, Tema, Ho. Okay. In the unsolved growth matrix, that is called market development. We are taking our product and taking it to new markets. That is market development. Then you also said that, hey, let's produce a variant of the sanitary pad. Or we have analyzed that the ladies don't just want sanitary pad, but they want beautiful underwears that they can wear, to give them confidence. Okay, so we have seen that we can bring beautiful underwears and sell it to the people who are selling, who are still buying our sanitary pads. Okay, what is that? It is called product development. So that is the space in strategic case study. So you realize that if you are put in that position where the examiner asks you, explain how this company can increase its market share to gain sustainable competitive advantage, then you just write, the entity should advertise its product more. The entity can sell the product in other markets. The entity can also, decide to do a variant of the product. Those are KG2 baby explanation. Because in the realms of the spirit, the examiner wants you to answer that question using unsolved growth matrix. So you are supposed to use market penetration, explain what it is, market development, explain what it is, product development, explain what it is. When you finish, there is another one called, how do we call it? Product development, market penetration. Then there is another one. I'll come to that as we proceed in the discussion. Then when you finish explaining all, you have to tell us in the short term, which of them should the entity pursue? In the medium term, which of them should the entity pursue? In the long term, which of them should the entity pursue? That is what strategic case study is about. You see that it's nice? That's the idea. Yeah, diversification. Yeah, that's true. Diversification, thanks. That's the idea about strategic case study. So that's what we are going to be trying to do. Now, the reason I did that illustration to you is because, you see, you will go to the exam hall, questions are going to be set. And in most cases, the examiner will not reference any model, any framework. The question will just be blank, like what I did here. How can the entity increase its market share or increase its gain sustainable competitive advantage in the marketplace? That's all. So if you don't think well and you don't understand strategic case study on the overall and the content of the syllabus, you would have written the points that I explained earlier. Oh, advertise more. Oh, sell the product more. Yeah, they are all nice things, but they are called baby points. At this level, you are put there in the exam hall as a strategic advisor. That's your role in the exam hall. You are a strategic advisor. That is why I said you will explain all the alternative options. When you are done, you have to tell the entity which ones they can pursue in the short term, which one they can pursue in the medium term, which one they can pursue in the long term. This is how you are going to be approaching strategic case study. So it's not child's play. It's not, oh, I'm writing ideas. No. Specifically, as a strategic advisor, you have to communicate clearly. So that's the idea generally when it comes to dealing with what strategic case study is going to be about. So we are not just here to, it's not just about your ability to chew the models. Hey, Charlie, when it comes to BCG metrics, we have, your friend is saying star. We have problem child. We have, your friend is saying cash cow. Then we have, what else? Dog. Yeah, it's okay to brag around, to regurgitate them. Oh, when it comes to value chain analysis, we have the primary factors, we have the secondary factors. Under the primary factors, we have what? Inbound logistics, outbound logistics, processing, marketing and sales, services. It's brilliant to regurgitate all of those things. The question is, can you see the model in a given scenario, and can you apply the model to the scenario? That is your role as a strategic advisor in the exam hall. And that is what I keep emphasizing. That the goal here is not to sit down, wait for pre-scene analysis to be given to you. The goal here is not to sit down and say, oh, I'm going to read analysis by Kweku Anansi, and Kweku Anansi has all the wisdom in the world. You will go to the exam hall and write absolute nothing. Because in your mind, which row BB, you are writing something, but at the end of the day, you are writing nothing at all. Those are the things that I want you to really take away from case study. Yet, it's a broad area. Yes, there are a lot of grounds to be covered when it comes to strategic case study. Yes, the more you go through it, the more you are seeing a lot of things. But that is the beauty of it. That is why it is the final paper required to be written to become a chartered accountant. So it is going to take life out of you. And the question is, can you handle it? That's all. That's all. All right. So now that we've set the tone for the discussion and what we are expected to do, let's begin the journey, talk a little bit about some of the few key issues, and then we get excited into the discussion. And so you realize then that I asked, what can the entity do in order to gain sustainable competitive advantage? Simply means, what strategies can the entity adopt to gain sustainable competitive advantage? And so the big question we then have to ask ourselves is, what is strategy? Now, strategy has been defined by many people, as you are aware of, coming from the book. Strategic has been defined by many: Chandler, Peter Drucker, Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. All of these people have given definition about what strategy is about. The truth of the matter is that strategy cannot be defined in one word like that. Yes, it is simply what an entity does to give it competitive edge in the marketplace. But it goes beyond that. So Chandler has a definition for it. Peter Drucker has a definition for it. Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington, JSW, have a definition for it as well. But the understanding of strategy is actually brought to bear by Professor Henry Midsberg in his thought process on what strategy should be like. So Professor Henry Midsberg provides a framework for us to understand what strategy is about. And that is referred to as the 5 P's of strategy. Stay with me. So when I say, what can we do so that our sanitary pad business grows, expands, increase, we get more money, what can we do? According to Henry Midsberg, what we do must have these 5 characteristics. The first one is that strategy is a plan. What does that mean? It is a carefully crafted steps that the entity intends to follow. Carefully crafted steps that the entity intends to follow. That's the first thing. So it is a plan. So the entity doesn't just get up and just do things out of the blue. No. You got to sit down, craft the plan. Hey, Charlie, this is where we are. This is where we are going. This is what we have to do first. But the second one is ploy. Whatever plan you want to execute should not be easily copied by your competitors. So it's a specific maneuver intended to outfit or trick your competitors. If we want to sell our sanitary pad more and we say, oh, sanitary pad, buy one, get one free. Always Ultra, they can do the same thing. Oh, sanitary pad. Our sanitary pad is the cheapest, so come and buy yo, come and buy yo. Yeah, sanitary pad can do that. So what is it that we can do that would take our competitors time to replicate same? Even if they want to do it, by the time they figure it out on how we are doing it for them to do the same thing, now you do it dada. So Henry Maisbeck says it should be something that will trick or outfit our competitors. 3, whatever we want to do must follow a certain pattern. And this is the degree of consistency in the firm's strategic action over time. Because you see, the strategy is not something you just do and go away. Like, we are doing Father's Day sales. Everybody can do Father's Day sales. We are doing singles sales. Everybody can do that. But what is it that you are going to be committed to do over a long period of time that will not be easily copied by your competitors that you have sat down to carefully craft? But Henry and Maisbeck then bring the discussion home to say that the management of the entity, in order to be able to do all of these things, must understand the competitive landscape and have a better interpretation of the competition they are surrounded with. Because how do you know what you can do that your competitors will find it difficult to do, that will give you a competitive edge, if you have not sat down to understand the environment within which you are operating? And Nuntina, strategic analysis is key, which we are going to be getting into in a moment. Then the last thing is we must understand our position in the marketplace. Who are we? What is our market share? What is our authority? How many customers do we have? What influence do we have in the marketplace? According to Professor Henry Maisbeck, a true strategy must be robust across all the 5 dimensions. A true strategy must be robust across all 5 dimensions. That is it. So carefully crafted, had to be replicated or copied by competitors. It should be something that we're going to be doing over a long period of time. Because sometimes you are doing something, then your competitors, they say they want to also do it. Then you just sit down and you're like, okay, let's see how long you're going to do it. They realize that, after 1 month, they have stopped. But you have to keep doing, because your strategy is what you are going to do over a long period of time. So it's a long-term game that will give you the competitive edge. The reason is because, when strategies are adopted and are implemented, sometimes it takes years for results to be seen. Because sometimes you would have to really put things on the ground, build momentum before you take off. So if it is not undertaken over a long period of time, you're going to have a lot of trouble. This is what strategy is about on the overall, according to Professor Henry Maisbeck. So yes, although Chandler, Peter Drucker, Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington have all contributed to what strategy should look like. It should be something that we have to take care of. We should know our stakeholders and various things. All that has been netted into these 5 key P's that we need to understand. But here's the play. In the development of strategy for the entity, there are 3 lenses. In other words, there are 3 viewpoints. In other words, there are 3 opinions that will guide which strategy an entity will adopt. And those are what we refer to as lenses of strategy. The first one is strategy as design. Now, this is according to Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. Now, you're going to be hearing a lot of things from them, Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington, as well as other people that we're going to be coming up with, Michael Porter and co. And it is important you understand them so that if the examiner quotes, mention the name in the question, you know what they are talking about. So according to Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington, there are 3 lenses of strategy. There are 3 opinions that guide strategic decision-making of an entity. The first one is strategy as design. Strategy as design simply means that whenever we want to do something, we follow the company's policy. That's all. So let's give an example. That yes, what am I doing? There's something going on with my note too. Cannot write again. Please give me a sec. Why? Because I am too big. Please give me a moment. Read or listen. We are seeing how is my note all of a sudden? La. I don't have. Oh, Charlie. Mbedikai. Okay. Let me go. I know what to do. So let's say that we have introduced a new product. Okay? So we have introduced a new product as a company. And per the policy of the company, anytime we introduce new products, what we do is we do some billboards, okay, do some radio ads, and then TV ads. So if we have introduced a new product, hey, marketing department, what are you going to do? Billboards, TV ads, radio ads. That is strategy as design. As a company, we don't allow romantic relationship in the office. It is forbidden. Thou shalt not fall in love and have any affairs at the workplace. That's a policy. If someone does that, we sack the person with immediate effect. So, dismissal. When I say dismissal, let me use the word termination of the employment. So if people fall in love, we terminate their employment. Strategy as design. So anytime we are confronted with the issue and we have to make a decision about it, we go back. What is the lay down procedure? What is the policy of the company? That is called strategy as design. So the logic and rational analysis, you follow established, lay down procedures. That's all. The second orientation that shaped the decision of management on strategy is strategy as experience. This is where instead of just looking at the lay down principle, we ask ourselves, what has worked in the past? So for instance, we have been launching new products, and all we did was billboards, radio, TV, following the lay down principle. Which of these have really worked for us over the years? So that Going into the future, let's focus on the ones that have really worked for us. Strategy as experience. Over the years, our company policy is to terminate the employment of people when they fall in love. Having been doing that, what has been the impact of it on our company? Chances are brilliant people, top talents that are valuable to the company will be lost by the company. So strategy as experience means what has worked in the past. So the past experience and organizational culture, what has worked before. So the idea here is, if you enforce that termination of romantic relationship, you are losing top talents. Strategy as experience. So the past guides management in making decisions about the future on facing or when they face something right now. Stay with me. The next one is strategy as idea. Ooh. This is where, when we are faced with a decision, we don't just look at the laid down principle, the laid down policy. We don't just consider what has worked in the past. We are now going to be thinking, like people say, outside the box, but we are going to be innovative. What are the new ways of handling this issue? So, hey, we are introducing a new product to the market. Okay. What are the new ways we can promote this product and get this product into the marketplace? All right. We can leverage social media ads. Okay. So we can advertise on social media. Why? Because many people are having their phones and we can target them. Radio and TV, we can't target, we can't measure, we can't do anything. Billboard, you don't even know. It will rain and it will destroy. But social media ads, we can target and say, we want this product to go, we want only women between the ages of 18 and 25 living around Accra, Kaneshi, with level of education of masters and above to see this ad. High targeting. High ROI on our advertisement cost. Or we will say, hey, instead of billboards, radio and TV ads, how about using influencer marketing? What does that mean? It means we pay those people who are online creating content on TikTok, on YouTube, on X, so they bring our product to their audience. Easy peasy. That is strategy as idea. So, looking at relationship at the office space, is there a way around it? Instead of sucking the two people from the company, is there an alternative way to handle this issue? Because you cannot stop people from falling in love. You cannot say, because people are working at the workplace, they cannot be emotionally connected with each other. Because everybody people find love in strange places. People find love in the market. People find love at the wedding. People find love, even at the public washroom. And they are working together. They go on trips together. And they can't fall in love. They are all single. They are not married. They can't fall in love. What kind of company is this? So the company can then say, okay. We're not going to terminate your employment if you fall in love. As a matter of fact, it has to be professional. But this is what's going to happen. The two of you will not remain in the same department or in the same branch. That's okay. So that the man is in maybe the Kumasi branch, The woman is in the Accra branch. Top talents, we don't lose them. That is what we mean by lenses of strategy. The question then you should be thinking about is, okay, which one is better than the other? No. There are some strategies, there are some policy decisions that the entity must take with the lay-down principle. If not, then the company will lose its existence. The company will lose its purpose. The company will lose its edge. So for some decisions, for some things, we still got to stick with design. There are some strategic decisions, we still got to look at the past and then use whatever has worked in the past to address the same issue, on the assumption that if it worked in the past, it will work now. Then there are certain decisions we need to ditch our lay-down rule, the old way of thinking. We need to ditch what has worked in the past and find a new way of addressing the same issue. These are the things you must understand when we talk about lenses of strategy. So the appropriateness of a lens on the strategy of a company depends on various factors. So for instance, in a typical autocratic organization, you will realize that they will use a lot of strategy as design. In a typical autocratic organization, where they feel, oh, these Gen Z people, if you give them 1 mile, they will take 10 miles. If you allow people to be flexible, they will turn the company into something else. They will stick with the design. Yes, it works for some companies. It doesn't work for some companies. Then there are some companies, they are like, hey, strategy as idea. Let's think new. And this is where some of those things like LGBTQ plus things can come to town. So there's a company that is, staunch Christian, staunch Muslim. Hey, you will never. Okay. But then now, you want to expand your company to Europe. You want to expand your company to America. You want to expand your company to other parts of the world. If you take your company to Europe and you go and do, I will never, it is a sin. It is a sin against God. It is a sin against God. You and your business fair will collapse and you will end up in jail. Why? Because the culture there is different. The laws there are different. So your design, your laid down procedure will not work in Europe. Yes, it will work in Ghana because you can decide and make the decision on that. It won't fly in Europe. It won't fly in America, and it won't fly in other parts of the world. And so that is why I'm saying that the appropriateness and the circumstance under which lens should be applicable based on the strategy implementation or strategic choices that we are making will depend on a lot of factors. The country or environment we are in, the nature of the company, the size of the company, the objective of the company. That is the idea about that. And so that is why you realize that for multinational companies, they have adaptation of their policies in various markets that they are in. Why? Because you cannot take experience to another country. The Coca-Cola that they sell in UK is different from the Coca-Cola in America. It's different from the Coca-Cola in Ghana. It's different from the Coca-Cola in Nigeria. Because if you do strategy as experience and say, oh, this is the mix of Coca-Cola we've been selling in Europe. People have been buying it. If you bring it to Ghana, nobody will mind you. If you take it to Nigeria, nobody will mind you. Branding, advertisement, same idea. So decisions for multinational companies will have some varied way based on some of these factors. That's what you must understand when we talk about lenses of strategy. So we've put the thought together about what Henry Misbeck has mentioned when it comes to understanding strategy. We have understood how the strategic decisions can be made based on the lens that we have on, or the opinion we are looking at. So let's bring the discussion home now and start with the usual issues of the first step of environmental analysis. The first step of environmental analysis. Please give me a second, okay? I want to see what is going on with because I need to write. I'm not comfortable. Okay. All right. So let's come and bring discussion into the environmental analysis. I can guarantee you that there is a question in the exam hall, minimum of 10 marks, maximum of 20 waiting for you on environmental analysis. Oh, Nhyira, so which one? Let me break it down for you. Then you can decide which one you think the examiner will bring. That is your responsibility, not mine. So the first environment is certainly the macro environment. Think about the macro environment as the country within which the entity is operating, the region, okay, regional block within which the entity is operating. So like West Africa, so ECOWAS, Europe, so you are dealing with the European Union, right? So think about the macro environment like as the country we are operating within, the regional block we are operating in it, or even if you want, we can expand it a little bit to the continent that we are in. Like in Africa, we talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade. So when it comes to Ghana, a company that is in Ghana, the macro environment for a company that is in Ghana, we are going to be looking at the things happening in Ghana. We're going to be looking at the things happening in West Africa, ECOWAS issue. Then we're going to be looking at the things happening on the Africa continent as a whole, like the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. That's the concept of the macro environment and its issues. The macro environmental analysis can be undertaken using what is called the PESTLE framework. The second environment that you can think about is the international environment. This is where we are this is where we are thinking about the organization trying to go global. Like I said, a Ghanaian company, they are seeking to sell their product on the European market or in America. Okay. Then the international environment will come in. Now, in the international environment, this is where we're going to be dealing with issues such as the following. For instance, we're going to be dealing with issues about the Porter's diamond. So the Michael Porter diamond. Why is it that if you take the automobile industry, you look at Ghana, we have Kantanka here. Why is it that Kantanka is not globally recognized like Tesla? Porter's diamond, because Michael Porter gave 4 reasons for that. So Porter's diamond is there. Then number 2, if we eventually decide to take our business to the European market, take our business to another country, take our business to another market to sell, then we need to be careful to know about the management orientation that will guide us on decision making. So management orientation here, we can have the ethnocentric orientation. The ethnocentric orientation is where the entity believes that its home market is superior to all other markets. For that reason, they take all the strategies, everything in the home market and take it to the new market. And so they use centralized organizational structure and everything is centralized in the home market. So all they do in the foreign market is take everything from the home market, because the idea is that if it works in the home market, it will work in the foreign market. Another orientation there is what is referred to as the polycentric orientation. Polycentric is where the organization says, hey, each market is distinct. Each country is different. So the fact that something is working in Ghana, the fact that something is working in the local market does not mean it will work in the other markets. So they would treat each market as distinct. And so in that environment, there will be a decentralized organizational structure. So each market will have a responsible manager. They will do intense market research and then make a decision on what will work in that country. That is polycentric strategy. So it is the opposite of the ethnocentric orientation. Then we have the regiocentric available. Regiocentric simply means that, okay, we are all in West Africa. If this is how things are done in Ghana, then it will be done the same way in Nigeria. It will be done the same way in Cote d'Ivoire. Why? We are all in West Africa. Regiocentric. Regiocentric. So those are management orientation. So it will form management, it will guide management on how they want to execute those international strategies. And closely related to the management orientation is what is called the EPRG framework. Sorry, not the EPRG framework. Oh, where did you go right now? When I remember, I'll bring it. There's another model there that I want to bring up, but it's not coming. Give me a sec. Let me see if I can get it, because I'm going to use it later, though. Give me a sec, please. International strategies. By now, you should know some of these things. So if I say it now, bang, it will come. But look at you. You're looking at my face. You're looking at my face, waiting for Nhyira to find it. Eh? Yeah, this one. The integration framework. Integration framework. We'll come back to some of these things later on if it's possible, right? So those are the international environments. Okay, those are the international environments. So macro environment, PESTLE, international environment, these three models based on what is happening there. Third is to talk about the internal environment. Now we come to the entity itself. So the internal environment, how do we assess? The internal environment assessment is trying to assess the strategic capacity of the entity. The strategic capacity of the entity. Now, when we talk about the strategic capacity of the entity, we are talking about what the entity can do and what the entity cannot do, what the entity is endowed with, and what limits the entity in its ability to gain sustainable competitive advantage. That is the internal environmental analysis. Here, there are a number of modules that we will be using. We will start with the SWOT analysis model. This is where we want to assess the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So the SWOT analysis will bring the results from the macro and the international environment and our internal analysis in one model. So when the examiner asks you to analyze the strategic capacity of the entity, you will use the SWOT analysis. Sekla? Yo. In addition to the SWOT analysis, we also have what we refer to as resource audit. The concept of resource audit is simply a discussion to identify the various resources available at the disposal, or the resources at the disposal of the entity. So human capital, machines, systems, money, finance, things. Resource audit. Third one is the concept of value chain analysis. According to Michael Porter, inputs go through some value chain. What are the factors that really enable the entity to turn the raw material into the finished goods? So if we are doing so below soba, right? What do we use for sobolo soba? We need some leaves. Okay, sobolo soba leaves. We need some garlic. We need some ginger. We need some sugar in some cases, people say. Okay, and some other things. We need the bottles. We need the labels and all that. How do we take these raw material into the finished sobolo soba? Michael Porter says it goes through that value. So what are the values in those activities? We need to analyze. The goal there is to identify which of them the entity can optimize on and which of them the entity can either remove entirely or, if you want, outsource to other companies so that the entity can focus itself on things that will maximize its returns and gives it a competitive edge. So SWOT analysis, resource audit, value chain analysis. All these are part of the internal environmental analysis. We can bring in even the concept of brainstorming. Brainstorming is a system where the organization puts together its team and allow everybody to make recommendation on how a particular problem that the entity is encountering can be addressed. These together gives us the concept of environmental analysis. As you go into the exam hall, done deal, 10 marks, minimum, 20 marks, maximum, waiting for you in the exam hall on this. Which one would the examiner bring? I can't tell you because I'm not in position to. And you don't have to know. Your role is to learn. So learn. And your face like, Nhyira, it's a lot of model. If you count it, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things. And so, which of the 8 things do you think that, based on your professional and giant say, no. Some of you are just lazy. You are just lazy to the core, right? Lazy to the core, and you want shortcuts to pass the exam, but there's no shortcuts for you. So these are the things we must understand about the environmental analysis. Now, you've done these models, true or false. You've done everything here. Is there any model here that you would want some clarity on, or that you've not looked at yet? Yes? Any ideas? Let me know. Are there anything, so that I don't have to teach these things again, right? Because, you've done these things. So, is there anything here that you would want me to talk about? Wait. I didn't talk about the competitive environment. The competitive environment. Porter's 5 forces. How can I forget that guy? Competitive or the industry analysis. This is where Porter's 5 forces come to town. So I've added one model. I hope you have covered everything here. And you don't have any problems in relation to anything here. Right? And now there is a problem. Yeah? Or you are uncomfortable with it? Oh, that's good. They say silence means consent. So, only that, silence can also mean confusion. Because probably some of you are seeing this and you're like, oh, what is this? But for all intents and purposes, you should have covered these things already. So what I'm going to do is to quickly walk us through an executive summary of these models and bring you up to speed practically in respect of how these models apply. Because as I mentioned, the goal about strategic case study is not just about, yo, Charlie, I know the models. Charlie, do you know me? I know the frameworks. Hey, Debbie. It's about being able to unearth, apply the model to specific questions or scenarios in the question. Yes, Innocent. Yes, Innocent, your hand is up. Oh, it's an error. Hey, we are seeing who. Okay. So let's look at some of the models. As I said, in an executive summary manner, let's walk through some of them, crystallization well, so that you see how they are supposed to be done. Because when the pre-scene is released, let me tell you something. When the pre-scene is released, PESTLE framework you're going to do, SWOT analysis you're going to do, value chain you're going to do, Potter's diamond you're going to do, if possible, in respect of that. Potter's 5 forces you're going to do. So it's something that is inherent in the analysis. Okay? Because as you go into the exam, as I mentioned, something is going to drop from here, minimum of 10, maximum of 20. Well, won't pay, it's waiting for you. Because environmental analysis is part of that first area that I mentioned, the strategic analysis. Putting all these together, also, we have what we call the stakeholder mapping. And we'll come back to that in a moment as we proceed in the discussion. Okay, so let's go. Every company starts understanding itself by first understanding which people are connected to the company and the influence that these people have on the company. And so the starting point, before we go into the country, into the regional block we are in, into the continent we are in, we need to find out, hey, as a company, who are the key players that can influence our decisions, that can affect us, that we relate with as a company? That is where stakeholder mapping comes in. That's where stakeholder mapping comes in. And so stakeholder mapping is simply a collaborative process of research, debate, and discussion. And the goal is to determine the definitive list of key stakeholders across the entire spectrum. So we are starting from where we buy, our production, when we sell, after that, outside the company. So the entire spectrum. We try to answer a few questions with the stakeholder mapping concept, and that is, who are they? What do they want? How much influence do they have on us? So who are our key stakeholders? What are their interests? What do they want? Because if we don't know what our shareholders want, we don't know what our customers want, we don't know what the regulators want, then we may be misleading and misjudge them and do some things that will not yield or inure to their benefit. In that case, we may then affect our efficiency and profitability as a company. So who are they? What do they want? What influence do they have on us? For the most part, key stakeholders of the company may include the following. Now, you learn this in KG2, internal stakeholders, connected stakeholders, external stakeholders. I'm not here for that. You know that already. But the key stakeholders could include investors and shareholders, customers, suppliers, employees, management, government regulators, competitors, business partners, local communities, very important, as well as pressure groups. Local communities and pressure groups. And so one model we use for the stakeholder mapping is what is referred to as the Mendello matrix. It's a question standalone that the examiner can ask you, 5 or 8 marks. To use the Mendello matrix to identify the stakeholders of the company. So it's a question. The examiner has done it before. He can do it again. So with the Mendello matrix, we are looking at generally, because let me take you also here, stakeholder mapping. Okay, so in the book, page 16, so you don't feel lost, because just coming in from the book and presenting in another way. So in the Mendello matrix, we have what we call interest and then power or influence. So the stakeholders who have a lot of power or influence over us, but have a lower interest, we need to keep these people satisfied. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of influence. They can determine whether our business should continue or not to continue. They can determine whether they will give us license or not. Those key stakeholders, as a company, we must do everything they ask us to do. We keep them satisfied. Those will include like the government and regulators. They have significant power, but they don't care about the day-to-day details of the company. So we got to keep them satisfied. So for instance, those days that DSTV was acting up, if you remember, the communication minister, for instance, was like, hey, if they don't like, they can pack their things and go away. I'm paraphrasing this, please. I'm paraphrasing, like not the exact words, but the idea and everything was like, hey, if you don't like our policy, this is our country. We want you to do A, B, C, D. If you can't do A, B, C, D, pack your things, go back to your country. So for regulators, we got to keep them satisfied because they call the shots on what we can do and what we cannot do. Then there are some key stakeholders who have a lot of power over us. They have a lot of influence over us, but they equally have higher interest in the company because when the company grows, they benefit. When the company goes down, they lose. Those are key players, like investors and major customers of the company. Here, these stakeholders must also be satisfied. Why? Because their success is critical, or their support is critical for the business. You don't take your investors for granted. Some major customers who buy a significant portion of your products, you don't take them for granted. You must make sure they are satisfied. Then there are some stakeholders, they don't have significant influence over us, but they have a high interest in the company. For those people, we need to keep them informed all the time. Employees, suppliers, community groups, or pressure groups. Now, Peter Drucker says that employees are the lifeblood of the company. Employees are the lifeblood of the company. That's Peter Drucker. So employees are crucial, but here is the play, and you have to be careful about this when you're doing the analysis of the precinct. In a case where employees belong to an association or a union, then the employees will have a strong bargaining power. I will come back to this later on when we are talking about Porter's 5 forces. But when employees belong to a union, they have strong bargaining power. But when employees do not belong to any union, then they have a weak bargaining power. And so there are many companies, they kick against unionization. In their company, they don't want their employees to join any union or form any union. Why? Because immediately they form or join a union, they will start striking. Recently, you saw the issue about the teacher and the students fight, right? And the teacher was arrested and giddy. And the teacher union, the various teacher union representative in that area came out and said, hey, listen, you don't know what happened. If you're going to just arrest only the teacher and leave the student to walk around, we're going to strike. We're going to put down our tools. We're not going to work. It didn't take long. Bail was easily granted. And the issue, the court says, hey, go home and go and settle the issue. That is how forceful, instrumental labor unions are. So although we need to keep them informed, it is important to understand that if care is not taken and they belong to a union, they can have significant influence over the company. So care must be taken there. Then pressure groups. If our operations have significant impact on the environment, it's likely that we'll have a lot of pressure groups visiting us. influencing on us. So we have to be careful to keep them informed. For instance, recently you saw the news, some people are demonstrating and encouraging Ghanaians to also abandon the South Africa companies operating here in Ghana. The Access, the MTN, the ShopRite and Co. They should stop buying from them. Why? They are doing that as a reciprocate the things that the South Africans people did to Ghanaians. So pressure groups can be a thorn in the flesh of companies. So the strategy for companies is to make sure that they keep these pressure groups satisfied. And nothing as sometimes you will hear about demonstration. Then you see people, they will say, hey, listen, hey, we won't agree. We will make sure that the right thing is done. They finish. Then the leadership of that group will be called behind the scene. And then they will settle. Then you see that those same people who yesterday they were like, we no go gree, we no go gree, they will now come and say, we need to give the government, the institution some time. Jai. They have done trade deals at the back already. So companies must navigate the landscape of pressure groups very well in order to keep going as a company. And is it bad? It depends on where you are coming from. And I'll come back to that in a moment to assess whether it's bad or not bad. We'll come back to that in a moment. Then the last group of people, minimal effort, like the general public as a whole, they don't have a lot of interest. They don't have a lot of influence over the company. So, if anything, we just monitor. We don't require anything specific to do. So the general public, we don't really care about them like that. These are the key stakeholders, Mendeley metrics, and how we segregate them. How instrumental is this? So when the company is seeking to expand and grow, and as part of the expansion and growing, under the unsolved growth metrics, they have decided to do market development. Okay? They have decided to do market development, meaning take their product into new market, or product development, meaning they are going to introduce a new product into the market. Which of these key stakeholders are likely to put hindrances in the ways of the company for the successful implementation of this project, this strategy? For instance, product development, it depends. But sometimes the product development may require what? Approval. If it is a food or something related, it will require approval from the regulatory authority. If a finance house is seeking to introduce a certain scheme, they will require approval from the Bank of Ghana before they introduce the scheme. So the Bank of Ghana can say, hey, no. We won't allow you to do that. Like recently, MTN wanted to charge a fee, 0.75 Ghana cedis or so, whatever the heck, 0.75%, when you transfer money from your own account to bank account and vice versa. You saw it. The regulator said, hey, change idea any sign. Sign. Let's come and do consultation first. Later on, we can come. So now, please, this is just an example, okay? Don't take me out of context. MTN might have introduced that thing because they wanted more revenue, because probably they are incurring some cost on that in transaction when people take money from their mobile money wallet to their bank account, from their bank account to their mobile money wallet. The MTN is incurring some cost in the processing. And they feel that, that cost should be borne by the users. So probably that is why they are introducing that charge. And so that would have increased revenue for MTN and the profitability for MTN. But the regulator said, Ishiru, you can't do that. That's a hindrance in the ability of the company to continue to expand and grow and make more money. Do you think customers were happy about that? No. Because you saw it. People were like, hey, e-levy has come again, especially the minority, the opposition minority people. They are like, hey, e-levy. They have passed e-levy again. This is e-levy. But the thing is not e-levy. It wasn't government. It didn't go to parliament. It wasn't a levy. It was an operator that says they want to charge a service fee. It was a service fee, not e-levy. But you saw the customer's reaction. Because I've said this over and over again that, for instance, that e-levy thing that they introduced, the e-levy that I've paid, and that useless thing that they used to do, you transfer money from your account to bank to your account, then they will be charging you. The money I've paid on those things, maybe by now, I could have paid by bride price for my wife. Bride price. Because I've paid a lot. So my bride price is in e-levy. Look at me. I can't pay bride price again. So customers are likely to react negatively if a policy introduced by the entity or a product introduced by the entity does not sit well with them. And Nuntina, whatever strategy a company is seeking to implement, whatever new product a company is seeking to bring in, they would have to check with the key stakeholders whether it will be acceptable to all of them. Now, we don't necessarily need all of them to give green light, but we need most of them to give green light. We can deal with the rest. That is the concept here about the applicability of the stakeholder mapping. That's the idea there. And we are done. I wanted you to explain a little the resource and brainstorming. Yeah, I'll come to that as we proceed. So that is the idea about stakeholder mapping. That's all. We're done. So now that we know our stakeholders, what then do we do? Let's come and find out the challenges we have. In an attempt to satisfy some of those key stakeholders, especially like the regulators, it may force management into a difficult ethical position. Stay with me. The first one is grease money. What is grease money? Grease money is simply the payment to speed up a legitimate administrative process that the entity already qualifies for. So Ghana Standard Authority says, you want to introduce something? Bring it. Let's check. Food and Drug Authority, you want to bring a drug to the market, food items to the market? Bring it and let's check. Then we take it to them. Per the standards, it's supposed to take 2 weeks. Please, it's an example, okay? Don't take me out of context. Maybe per the standards, it's supposed to take 2 weeks for them to do their work and tell you whether it's right or wrong. You've sent the thing to them. They've not given you green light. 1 month, I trim. Every day when you go there, they say, oh, we are on it. Every day you go there, you say, we are on it. Every day you go there, you say, we are on it. Then one day you go there. Please, again, this is an example, okay? Please don't take me out of context. Then one day you go there and you drop brown envelope. Because you go and see the person who is in charge and say, I've been putting this thing up for a long period of time. I've not heard about it. And say, oh, I will look at it for you. And say, oh, please take this to buy, take this to buy some biscuits for the children. Biscuits for the children, brown envelope. Do we use brown envelope to buy biscuit for the children? That's grease money. Is it right? I leave it to your conscience. Is it right for the entity to pay? Because if you don't pay, your product is not coming to the market. You have incurred cost on the development of this product. You have acquired machine to begin to produce this product, but the regulator is delaying. But immediately you release the grease money, the administrative wheels become smooth And something that has taken 6 months, you've not heard anything, the following day they call you and say, come and take it. So is it right to pay grace money? You go pay them. Okay? You go pay them. All right? It's not right, but if you don't pay, your product is not coming up. But that is where the dilemma comes in. So if you're somebody and you say, oh, me dear, I will never give money to any government person. I will never. If they won't give us the license, they should be there. Okay, your business will collapse. All your sweat, tears, struggles will go down by your holico attitude. So you go pay. Is it the right thing? No. But the system, you have to pay. It's called grease money. The second one is bribery. This is the direct opposite. This is where the company makes payments to receive a benefit that they are not legally entitled to. That's bribery. So, yeah, we've submitted the product to the Ghana Standard Authority or the Food and Drug Authority. It doesn't meet their standard, and they are supposed to decline it. But we go and give brown envelope to somebody, and the person stamps it with the authority's badge and say, I approve it. When we know the thing is not good, they know the thing is not good, but they release it, approve it for it to come to the market. Why? Because we've paid money, bribery. Now, the ethical dilemma here is this. Yes, you know what you are doing is evil because the product doesn't meet the standard. But you feel that is the only option you have available. And so you have to force your way to bring it to the marketplace. Otherwise, all the investment you have made will go down the drain. That is evil. But it will surprise you. There are many fake products on the market. Recently, the Ghana Standard Authority was going around and taking electrical cables, bulbs, and co., seizing them because they don't meet the required standards. And my question was, how about the people who have already bought those products and have used it in their houses? Why? How did those products get to the country? Because probably the importers of those products might have paid bribe to somebody somewhere to allow them to get this product into the country. Bribery. The next one is gift and lobbying. You see, in some cultures, like you go to Korea, China, okay, significant portions of Asia, when you're going to visit a person in position, you don't go there empty-handed. You go there with a gift. And that is the culture there. But if you come to Ghana and come and do the same thing, like you are going to visit the president, and you say, oh, Mr. President, we are a car manufacturing company, so I am bringing you this SUV as a gift for you to drive and see. In a culture outside of Ghana, it wouldn't be taken too serious. But in our part of the world, it's very serious. Gift lobbying. Another thing is, political campaigns. Do you think the politicians in this country, companies in this country don't support them? They do. They do. And they would donate to the political parties, the two big people. They would donate to their presidential candidates. The two of them, so that whoever comes to power, they can make sure they lobby favorable terms. Lobbying. Is it good? Is it bad? Because if you don't lobby for favorable laws, then stringent laws will be passed against your business, and your business may go down. I have this theory. It's just a conspiracy theory. Please don't take it wrong. That banking sector cleanup thing that happened did not just happen because it didn't want to happen. And it's a conspiracy theory. Please, it's not the truth. So don't take it anywhere. My theory is that somebody might have visited somebody, the regulators, and said, don't you think the banks and the finance houses in the countries, they are too many? Like everywhere you pass, you see a bank here, you see a bank here, you see a bank here, and they are not even operating well. Don't you think we need a robust financial system? Then, in my mind, imagination, the regulators started saying, I think you may be seeing. Then as those people were leaving, they dropped a gift and said, think about what I said. Not long before then, they said, hey, from now on, your capital structure from 120 million to 400 million. If you don't have that money, we take your license. You can't operate again. Gift and loving. Now, here's the play. The banks whose licenses were revoked, where would their customers go? You get it? They will go to the existing banks because you still need a bank account. Again, as I said, please don't take it anywhere. I'm just saying, I'm explaining gift and lobbying, that it could be possible that some bank people went to lobby and then, Then the last one is extortion. This is where stakeholders demand payment before granting access for approval. So this is where you are blatantly told. Unlike grease money where they don't tell you anything, but the action tells you that maybe I have to put down something to trigger them to do their work. Extortion is where they ask you, you want to sit at the right-hand side of the president during the event? You are supposed to pay $2 million. Because when you sit closer to the president, you can have dialogue with the president. And you can sow some seed into the mind of the president, and he will go to bed and be thinking about it, and it will bring a policy to help you and your industry. So pay $2 million. You will sit at the right-hand side of the president. Extortion. Again, are these ethical? This is where ethics, in strategic case study, this is where we are talking about ethics for the company as a whole, management as a whole. Is it the right thing? No, on the face value, they are all wrong. But the other side of the coin is this. If we don't do some of these things, our business will be off. So you are a pastor. You are a religious person. You believe in God. You are a Malam. You have faith in Allah. Allah says don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. Allah says don't bear false witness. But here you are paying bribe for something you don't qualify for. Here you are paying money so you can get some favor. Gift and lobbying. Here you are paying money so that something could be done for you quickly than the normal time that is required. It is wrong. But if you don't do that, your business too is going down. So what do you do? Ethical dilemma. So that's the concept about ethics. So that's just a shade of ethics that you must understand in strategic case study. But just giving you an idea of what you need to understand when it comes to on the overall ethical issue that you have to think about in strategic case study. So we are not just talking about, integrity, professional competence, and due care objectivity. We are talking about some of these practical issues that management encounter. That's it. We are done. So let's face the real deals and come to the macro-environmental analysis. As I said, in the macro-environmental analysis, when you're looking at the PESTLE framework, you are thinking about the country within which the entity is operating, the regional block within which the entity is operating, or even the continent that the entity is operating. What are the key factors that affect the entity's operation, and what should the company do based on the factors available? And so here is the play. In assessing the threats or opportunities that are available to the entity, PESTLE framework will come to town. When an entity is seeking to make investment decisions, expanding to other markets, PESTLE framework will come to town. So if we want to start selling our product in Europe, we will carry out PESTLE framework in the European market, because we need to understand the factors there and how they can affect us and what we must do. Like I said earlier, you are in Ghana and your faith is LGBTQ is evil. These people should not be allowed to live in any community. Okay. It's okay. You are in Ghana. It's okay. You can do that. But if you cross the Ghana's border and get to the European market, that thing you call your faith, you got to set it aside. Because if somebody belonging to the LGBTQ plus community apply for a job in your company and you turn the person down, that's racism. That's against human rights. So you got to be in trouble. So where does the PESTLE framework apply? It applies when we are doing SWOT analysis, when we are assessing the strategic position of the entity, we are analyzing threats and opportunities. PESTLE, the point from PESTLE could apply. When an entity is seeking to make strategic investment decisions, market investment decisions, PESTLE framework may apply. Then we can have it just on its own in analyzing the macro environment of the company, which is Ghana, as a standalone question on its own as well. So these are the applicable areas, the realms within which we may have to call on the PESTLE framework in writing our answers. So what are these factors? 6 of them. The first one is the political factor. The political factor simply relates to the influence of government and policy. Simple. So a number of things we are looking at is, what is the political system and the stability in the country? Is it a stable economy? Is it a military regime? Is it a monarch? Is there peaceful transition of power? All these are critical for making investment decisions. Will you go and open a business in Iraq? Will you go and open a business in Saudi Arabia? Will you go and open a business in Canada? Will you go and open a business in China? Because you need to understand the political system and the stability in the country. Because if it is like an autocratic military regime, centralized government, it's likely that even there will be nationalization of your private company if it exceeds a certain size. Political systems. And you can't do anything about it. Political system. So, is Ghana peaceful? Yeah. Do we have peaceful transition of power? Yeah. That's the idea. Is there any civil unrest? Terrorist attacks? Stability of the country is very important. But not only are we interested in civil unrest, political system, how peaceful or stable the country is. Number 2, political factors, the regulatory requirements. The industry that the entity is in, is it highly regulated or not? If the industry the entity is operating within is highly regulated, then we have to watch out. Because if it is heavily regulated, then there will be a lot of stringent things in us. So a sudden increase in the minimum capital, for instance, for the bank, is a classical political factor. One day you are just there. They said minimum capital has been increased from 120 million to 400 million. Where are you going to get the money from? And some of the banks didn't inject any money. All they did was to move reserves, retain earnings and revaluation surplus, other components of equity into the share capital. That's all they did. But many of the banks didn't have a lot in their retained earnings and other components of equity to convert into share capital. So they have to inject physical money. Where are you going to get 280 million to add to the 120 you already have to get the 400 million minimum capacity? Regulatory requirement. Insurance saw the same thing. Minimum capital for insurance companies was also increased. Regulatory environment. So whatever industry the entity is in, is the industry regulated? If the entity, the country is trying to now put together regulatory authorities, that means it is a threat to our operations going into the future. But it is also an opportunity. Because you see, these things we are talking about have two-edged sword characteristics. For instance, if the country is not stable and there is a lot of civil unrest, people want to buy a lot of ammunition. So security companies and companies that manufacture ammunition, they are happy. Because if there is no war, if there is no civil unrest, how will they make money? So it's an opportunity for them. So the war going on is an opportunity for the companies producing ammunition. That's how they make money. But on the other hand, it becomes a threat for other businesses. Same thing happens to the regulatory requirement. When the banking sector cleanup exercise was undertaken, minimum capital was increased. It was a threat to the banks who didn't have the money, so they have to go out. But it became opportunities for the banks that remain. Why? Because now they can serve more people. They can enter areas and markets that previously they wouldn't have entered because other banks had occupied those places. That's the concept here. Then the last thing is the regional integration. What are the policies of regional blocs like ECOWAS, or if we are in Europe, European Union? Free trade agreement can provide major opportunities. So like the Continental Free Trade Agreement, it's key. So that if you're in Ghana, you can sell your goods in other countries. But it's also a threat because it means that other people from other African countries can also equally bring their product to Ghana and come and sell. So on one side, it is providing us with opportunities. On another side, it is also a threat. That is the idea about political factors. So think of the political factors as how peaceful the country is, democracy or governance system, right? Civil unrest. What is the regulatory requirement? Then regional integration and others. Economic factors. This relates to the broader economy in the country. So here we are looking at the key variables and how they impact on the business. That's all. Now, you want to think about economic factors in a certain frame of mind. Number one, think about economic factors about the industry that our company is in. They are the contribution of the industry to the GDP of the country. Okay, so industry's contribution to the GDP of the country. So if it is a telecommunication business, what is the contribution of the telecommunication industry to the GDP of Ghana? If it's a mining company, what is the contribution of the mining sector to the GDP of Ghana? If it is a hospitality company, what is the contribution of the hospitality industry or sector to the GDP of Ghana? That's the first level. That's the first level. The second level is also the second level has to do with, in dealing with the economic factors, is thinking about the impact that the industry has on the country. Okay? The impact. So aside the GDP contribution, which is on the larger board, the impact on the country, like job creation. Okay? Like corporate social responsibilities, things that they do at the end of the day. That is what economic factors are about. And so in looking at those things in a breakdown, what are the key economic variables like inflation, interest rate, foreign exchange rate? How do these affect businesses? And what should we do as a business? So let's say that the inflation rate is higher. Now the inflation rate it's lower, right? So let's say that it's possible because of the way the economy is doing. Because recently, the World Bank has indicated that they are willing to put across, I think, $100 billion to help various economies or countries because of the war going on between America, Israel, and Iraq. Because of the Strait of Hormuz that have closed, trade on the global market has been affected, productivity. So the global economic growth per the World Bank projection has reduced significantly. And so because of those nuances, it's likely that probably if that issue is not resolved as quickly as possible, we may see interest rates, inflation rate going up a little bit, because those global economic issues affect Ghana as well. We don't live in an island. It impacts us in various ways, shape, or form. So if it is likely that interest rate is going to increase in the future, what do? We can use forward agreement. So if it's likely that interest rate will increase, maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, and we are planning to start constructing a factory, and we want a loan, and we'll be doing the factory, we will be commencing the construction of the factory in 18 months from now, then we can go to the bank and say, hey, we will need 200 million Ghana cedis to construct a new factory in loan. How much will it, in 18 months, how much will you people charge? Then we will lock in the interest rate now, so that later on, if the interest rate goes up, and we've locked it in. The disadvantage is that if the interest rate comes down, yaboka. That's the principle of hedging, right? Yaboka, in respect of that. So we need to find these economic variables. How do they impact us? Inflation rate is high. That will increase our cost of production as a company. So how do we deal with that? Okay, maybe we have to put in place what we refer to as business process reengineering. So we have to re-engineer our entire production system and remove some inefficiencies. Maybe it is better to shift from labor-intensive production system to a capital-intensive production system, because that will increase efficiency of the company. So what are the economic factors? What effect do they have on the entity's operation, and what should the entity do? Then certainly we can talk about the issues in respect of the availability of labor and the cost of skilled labor. In the market we are in, are skilled laborers available? What is the cost? How much will it cost us to employ such brilliant or talented people in our production system as an entity? That is the idea about economic factors. So as you are reading the pre-scene, as you are reading any story at all, you have to identify the economic factors and assess their impact on the entity's operation, and most importantly, what the entity can do to mitigate any threat that the entity is exposed to. Remember, economic variables can be opportunity for us, or they can be a threat. Because if interest rates are reducing, then a project that the entity had been putting off because of higher interest rates in the past, now they can do the project because they can borrow at a lower interest rate. That's an opportunity. But it could also be a threat when it begins to rise a lot at the end of the day. Next one is social or cultural factors. This is looking at the people in the country. So how do Ghanaians on the overall behave? That's cultural or social factors. So we are looking at the people, their value, and their behavior. Cultural and social factors, one, the belief and values of the people. Why should we know about the beliefs and values of the people? Because if we do anything contrary to the beliefs and values of the people, then we are not going to be successful as a company. We will not be. Imagine the multinational companies here in Ghana. Please, again, just an example, okay? Imagine the multinational companies here in Ghana. Some of them have their CEOs, not Ghanaians. Some of them have their CEOs to be Europeans, like foreigners. Imagine one of those top CEOs comes out and say they identify as LGBTQ+. Just imagine it. Imagine it. You think that company will survive? No. In the next 3 months, that company would have to fold. Boom. Why? Because it is against our values or our systems to openly recognize, do that, see that in practice. Recently, a law has been even passed, right? Waiting for the president to assent. Belief system. You cannot go to a Muslim community and sell alcoholic beverages or pork on the overall, because they are now a little modification. So previously, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, alcohol is banned because it's against them. But because of the way they are growing, they are trying to modify that a little bit. So you can go to bars, restaurants in United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and co., and still have alcoholic beverages, but there are rules surrounding it. We don't want to see you drunk. Because if we see you drunk, you pay a fine. You see the thing? So this is where we are talking about the country thinking like strategy as innovation, strategy as ideas. Because they are trying to, because there are a lot of people coming in, you can't just say they shouldn't drink alcohol. But there are certain things that are no crossing the line. It's against their belief system. Like when Qatar hosted the World Cup, right? They said, hey, you want to come here? Come. But don't bring your LGBTQ plus things here. Don't come and do that here. Because it is an abomination. It is haram in our belief system. That is the first thing. So a company must know the belief system, the values of the country they are operating in, their customers. That will inform them on the advertising campaign they will bring, the product naming and all those things. Many multinational companies have to change the logo, the name of their product in other countries like China and South Korea because the name of the product or the logo represented something sacred or something evil in those cultures. So they have to change the name of the product and even the branding of the product. Why? Because of belief and values. Second thing is the demography and lifestyle. Is it an aging population? What's the level of education? Because if we live in a country where the education level is rising, people are becoming aware of social media trend, they are using smartphones, then they're going to have access to a lot of information. For that reason, if we try to do something, they can quickly fact check it, and pour it back into our face. So demography and lifestyle is key. That will also inform us on how we carry out our business as an entity. Then, the disposable income of the people. Because you see, the taste and preference of people depend on how much money they have. So you remember when you were broke, you could eat anywhere. No consequences. You could eat Davy beans. You could eat Amelia's wache. And you don't care. There are houseflies flying. Hoo-hee, hoo-hee, hoo-hee. You don't care. Because you are broke. Oh, you can afford this Davies wache or Davies beans or Amelia's wache. But now you got to a point in time and you want to eat in a 5-star restaurant. And when you go to the restaurant and, there is a glass or they've not even cleaned the table well or the napkin has a stain on it, then you start acting all up. Previous years ago, you were eating in literally bola. Now, you see napkin cry, there is small debt on it, and you're trying to do yourself like, hey, the restaurant has committed a crime. Why can you do that? It's because of what? Disposable income. You've made more money. You are more exposed. You are more educated. So your taste and preference has changed. So companies must know all of these to help them in designing strategies, designing products. Now, many people don't want to go and buy things. They don't want to go to the restaurant and take package. They want to sit in their home and order things online and have it delivered to them. So if you're a company, you're a restaurant, you're a shopping mall, and you don't have an online store, you are going to lose a lot of customers. Why? Because many people want to sit in their home, order things online, and have it delivered to them. They don't want to travel. I don't know if you like it, but I don't want to travel. If I'm going out, it should be something significant that I'm going to do. But I don't want to just go out to go and pick something at the mall. No, why can't they deliver it? Lifestyle, taste and preference. When you were broke, you could walk 17 kilometers. Nowadays, if you walk 500 meters, cry, you're like, oh, my bre, oh, my bre. Yeah, because you have money. That is the concept about social things. So the companies must identify these things and then find out the strategies that they can implement. Then we come to technological factors. Every industry has technological advancement that affect the industry. The concept here is, what are the technological factors available for the entire industry? Remember, everything we are doing here is not about our company. It's about the country. It's about the economy we are living within. So what are the technological factors that are available to the industry as a whole? The deal is this. If the technology is available and we don't adopt it, our competitors will adopt it and boom, we'll be out of the industry. So you remember when COVID came, the effect of COVID affected a lot of businesses. Many schools closed down. Many legacy restaurants, shopping centers have to close down. Why? Because prior to COVID, there was online stores. There were e-commerce stores. There were online education, but they didn't adopt. And they demonized technology. When the time came where people don't want to go anywhere, what happens? Competitors who had built that capacity were able to take advantage of it. So whatever company that we are dealing with, what are the technologies available for the industry? So it depends on the industry we are in and the technology that is available for them. But sometimes the technology could be available, but the entity cannot adopt it. Why? Because it could be expensive. Right? It could be expensive. Number two, it could be the management mindset. Oh, born before computer. Oh, the computer cry there. Oh, sir, let's have an online store. Yeah, we are doing in-person classes though, but let's build capacity also for online classes. Oh, who is attending online class? People are not even interested. Online store. I don't see a day. Hey, 10,000 for online store. Hey, mindset of management. Mindset of management. And then customer readiness. Sometimes customers are not ready for the technology. Sometimes customers are not ready. And I say this all the time, that for years, we had online platform for online courses. We record videos, we host them, we have them available on the portal. We talk about it, advertise it. Nobody is interested. Everybody wants to come to class and come and see insurance news. Everybody. Why? People were not ready for online education until COVID. Then people are now like, oh, yeah, social distancing, but I still need to write my ICA. So how can I get videos? How can I get da? By then, we had built the capacity already. So boom, we just scale it and boom, we go. So sometimes customers are not ready. So that could sometimes bring a hurdle. Management would then say, so it doesn't look like customers are interested, so go. The best companies are the companies who produce things that customers don't even know they need. But the need will arise because the entity produces, markets it, and convinces the customers. That is it. The best companies in the world, that is how they are built. So they don't follow trend. They don't look at whether customers are ready to adopt or not. Can they utilize it? If the answer is yes, boom, they go for it. So the key question here is, what new technologies could disrupt our industry? And how can we leverage first? So this is where we analyze, is the entity investing in R&D? Because you need to invest in research and development to be able to identify, see the technologies. Then, whether the entity is going with born before computer, strategy as design, or strategy as idea. Because if you are doing strategy as design, hey, Charlie, media, computer there, computer, people will steal your money. Social media, mobile money. Up to today, there are some people, they don't accept mobile money. They have a business, they don't accept mobile money. It blows my mind. Like recently, I was at a shop, I was buying things. I was supposed to buy them somewhere, but I couldn't. So I was coming home, then we had to stop. Then I was buying. Oh, so I bought things, like everything. They finished everything. They said, 800 and something Ghana cedis. Then I was like, okay. So I had opened my Momo app, and then I sent Pacho Momo number. I said, Pacho Minji Momo. Kona koyi sikanebra. And I'm saying, what? Minko pe enkoyi sikanembra ambema. I just left. And she sees it as normal. She wasn't perturbed, she wasn't concerned, because to her, mobile money fraud. When businesses think that way, strategy as design, and never change to the trends, they are going to struggle. That's technology. Then the next one is ecological factors. This has to do with the physical environment and sustainability issues. So the impacts of the entity's operation on the environment. So this is where social and environmental responsibility comes in. Then the legal environment, what are the laws that govern the industry and the entity's operation? We must know them and comply with those laws as an entity in respect of that. These are the things we must understand when we talk about PESTLE framework. Again, when making market expansion decision, product development decisions, international strategic decisions, we may write our answer from the realms of PESTLE framework to get our point. So what an entity is seeking to open a branch in Nigeria. What factors should the entity consider before going to open the branch in Nigeria? You can answer that question by bringing the spirit of PESTLE framework. Political factors, because you need to know the political system in Nigeria. Peace, safety, Boko Haram and co. You need to know the regulatory environment in Nigeria, because the laws in Nigeria are not the same as the laws in Ghana. You need to know the economic variable. What's their inflation rate? Fuel cry they can't get. Electricity they don't have. Energy. How would that impact us? If we are going to go there, we will need a lot of energy. What are the alternatives? Do we have to have renewable energy or have a plant? If we have a plant, we need to buy fuel. The fuel too, the price is expensive. We have to consider that. Social factors, the people there. How are they going to take our product? Is there something we have to do about our product to suit the Nigerian taste? Do you get the idea there? So you are answering the question But you are going to be answering the question in the realms of PESTLE framework. You don't necessarily have to refer the PESTLE framework, but in the realms of the spirit, your explanation will be about political factors, economic factors, social factors. And if you come from the PESTLE framework environment like that, it will enrich your answer and empower you to provide quality answers at the end of the day. And another area is where the examiner will just hit you specifically. Using the PESTLE framework, do a macro environmental analysis or assess the nature of the macro environment of the entity. That's all. Or assess the macro environmental factors that impact the entity's operation and what the entity should do. All that is still PESTLE framework. So the examiner didn't mention PESTLE. But how do you assess the environmental factors and their impact on the entity and what the entity should do? PESTLE framework. So all these are realms, application, trial, tests when it comes to dealing with the PESTLE framework. I'm done. That's all about it. The next area of our discussion is to put the pieces together and go to the industry environment. So now we've looked at the macro environment, the country we are in, the economy. Now let's narrow it down to our industry. So let's analyze the nature of competitiveness in the industry within which we are operating. And that is where Porter's 5 forces comes to town. Porter's 5 forces. According to Michael Porter, in assessing the nature of the competitiveness in the industry within which the entity is operating, there are 5 key factors that we must consider. The outcome or impact of those factors, whether they are high, moderate, or low, will influence the strategies that the entity must put in place. So again, the goal here is not about, knowing them, but the goal here is about understanding whether they are high, moderate, or low, and what our company must do at the end of the day. So what are these factors? First, threats from new entrants. This is simply looking at whether it is easy or difficult for new companies to enter the industry. And so there are a number of indicators that will bring people or make the industry attractive. Number one, if it is a high profit industry. So if it is a profitable industry, everybody wants to come. Like mobile money business. It's profitable. It's profitable. So that's why you see every joint, you see mobile money business. Number two, low cost and expertise is required. What do you need to do a mobile money business? You just need somebody has completed JSS or whatever. They can read and write, and that's all. Capital. How much do you need for mobile money? You don't need any significant capital. Regulations. There is low regulations for mobile money. But if you want to go to banking, that's going to be different. Yes, bank is profitable. But the capital is significantly high. The expertise you need to run a bank is different from the expertise you need to run a mobile money business. And hell, there are regulations there. So these are the indicators that will determine it. So if the industry in the question, there is high profitability, but the capital requirement is low, or even sometimes capital requirement is high, but people can use alternative means to still enter the market, then the threat from the new entrants could be high in respect of that. Then regulation, if the industry is not really robustly regulated, it leaves a room for many people to enter the market. So here's the question. If the threat from new entrants is high, in other words, everybody can come into the industry, companies can jump into the industry, What should we do as a company? The first one is merger and acquisition arrangement. This is a classical strategy for Apple Inc. When Apple realizes that there is somebody who has manufactured, who has developed a software or an application, and that app, when it's allowed on the App Store, it's likely to compete with a certain application or operating thing that is on their iPhone or in their ecosystem, quickly they acquire it. Easy peasy. $500 million, $1 billion, 300. So Apple is always on the look. Because you see, when many people come in, they become potential competitors. They'll be sharing the market with you. So what do? You want to acquire them and take them out of the market. Now, it means you got to have some money to be able to do that, right? Because if you don't have money, then you can't do that. 2, lobbying, that is advocate for stricter regulations to raise the entry barrier. That was the example I was giving about the banking sector cleanup. You heard there was a time a certain businessman allegedly went to the Parliament House to drop some money for the parliamentarians, allegedly. What was the person trying to achieve if it is true? Lobbying. And what would that lobbying look like if you are going to Parliament? Regulations. So that it will make it difficult for new people to come and work, but then it will be favorable for the people who are already playing in the market. Customer loyalty. Yes, it is competitive. People will come, but if you are loyal, customers will want to buy from you. In respect of that. So this is where a company can launch a loyalty program, like having a loyalty card. Like Melcom has that loyalty card. And some other company. So that as far as you're going to buy from them, you're going to swipe your card and you get some 3% discount. And then on specific days, you can have up to 7% or 15% discount. So although there are other shopping centers, you will still go and buy there. Why? Because of how you are treated, customer service. You know that, right? There are certain things you buy, and under normal circumstance, you could have bought it closer to your house or at your workplace, but you still drive longer distance, or you still walk a long distance, or you send somebody to still go and buy it from that place. Why? Because of how they make you feel. How they made you feel in at the first day or time when you go there, or how they treat you when you go there. So you are like, I want to be here no matter who comes. These are some strategies the entity can adopt when the threat from new entrants is high. Again, as I said, we are not really interested in your ability to regurgitate these things. It is what the company must do. And so in every Potter's 5 forces analysis, when you are writing each of these things in the question, when you finish assessing whether the threat from new entrants is high, moderate, or low, you must tell us what our company should do, especially when it is high and moderate. If it is low, we won't do anything. But if it is high and moderate, what do you think the company should do? Then you can make some recommendations. Again, my goal is not for you to regurgitate. My goal is for you to spot it in the requirement and how you are supposed to write out your answers. That's my goal here. Next, threat from substitute products. Be careful here. You learned from KG2 that when we say substitute, Colgate toothpaste is a substitute to Pepsodent toothpaste, is a substitute to Yaz toothpaste. If I want breakfast, Milo and Bonvita, they are substitute products. Jai. That's not what we mean here. Threat from substitute product means, is there any sub-industry providing something similar that serves the same need that our industry serves? Stay with me. So, is there a parallel industry or sector bringing something, rendering a service, producing a product that serves the same need as our product in this industry? So let me give you an example. You take the telecommunication industry. You want an internet? You can do fiber optic or you can do satellite, Starlink. So satellite services is a substitute to fiber optic internet. So you don't say, Airtel Tigo is substitute. There be. Telecommunication, you want internet, you can do fiber or satellite. You want to travel? Okay. You can go with aeroplane, aviation, or go by road, GPRTU, or go by train, Ghana Railway Authority. So the train is a substitute to the aeroplane, to the aviation industry. You want banking? You can do traditional banking. Go open account in the bank, or just have a mobile money wallet. Because on Momo, your money that is sitting in your Momo balance equally earns interest. And in the Momo ecosystem, you can do various investment services. So you don't traditionally have to go and open bank accounts anywhere for them to be charging you any maintenance fee every month. When you have your Momo wallet, nobody charges you any monthly maintenance fee. So that is a substitute for it. That is the concept about threat from substitute product. Do you get the idea here? So for the company that we are looking at, the industry that we are analyzing, is there a substitute product? If the threat from substitute product is high, then certainly we have to put in place some strategies. So what are the strategies? We can use some of these strategies here that we spoke about, but also could be integrating the substitute technology or form a partnership with them. So that's why the banks didn't allow or have not left mobile money, and they have integrated mobile money into their services. So when you take your bank's mobile app, you can do everything in the bank's mobile app that you could have done in your MTN, my MTN app, or in your MTN mobile wallet if you dial 170#. It's called integration, partnership. And this is in addition to the other points that we spoke about. Do you get the idea? Because if you have good customer loyalty, it doesn't matter. For a long time, I was having bad internet services, right? And I was finding it difficult. I stuck with MTN and then Telecel. And I was like, no, it's okay. But it got to a point in time, I lost it. Like, I have MTN, I have Telecel. They can all go off at a time. And you're like, what the heck is going on? So I have to go for a substitute, Starlink. Both at the office and at home. Because, yes, although the initial cost is higher, the benefits outweigh the cost. Because, for instance, at home, in my life cycle, I use, I think, 1.4 terabytes of data. And I'm on the 770 Ghana cedi package. 1.4 terabytes. In the world of MTN or Telecel, I would have paid close to 2,000 cedis for that same 1.4 terabyte and even not get unlimited speed. You see the threat there? So Starlink is a threat. And so that is why some telecommunication companies, I think in Zambia also, they are the first person that have done, I don't know, Zambia or Kenya, one African country, the telecommunication companies have signed a partnership agreement with Starlink. So that as far as you are on their service, where even if you go somewhere that they don't have towers there, your mobile phone, if your mobile phone has that capacity, will switch automatically to a Starlink satellite, and you'll still get network to make calls and do tests. A certain African country, I've forgotten. Later on, I can tell you about that. That is because they saw it as a threat. But how do we integrate it into our system? I think MTN is also thinking about that, to find a way to integrate Starlink into its system, because it will help. But that is the concept of threat from substitute product. Third, bargaining power of customers. This has to do with the ability of customers to influence the price and or quantity demanded of a product. So can customers influence the price and the quantity demanded of a product? If the answer is yes, then they have a high bargaining power. If the answer is no, then they have no bargaining power. So here's the play. What are the factors that will determine whether customers have a strong bargaining power or not? The first one is the number of customers. If there are a lot of number of suppliers, if there are a lot of competitors, customers have strong bargaining power. Oh, so you want network? Why should you be crying on Airtel Tigo when you can switch to MTN? Why should you be crying on Vodafone Telecel when you can switch to MTN? I'm on Telecel because they are data bundle. The data that you buy that you can't use, you are still there. So if there are many competitors, customers have a choice. And if there is low switching cost, what would you pay to port your SIM card from one to another? It doesn't cost anything. What will it cost you really to change from one service provider to another service provider? In most cases, if the cost is lower, then customers will have a strong bargaining power. Access to full information, like we were saying earlier, when people are exposed, they are more educated, they have access to market information. So if you tell them, oh, this thing can do this thing can do that, this thing is it, they can fact check you. They can fact check you. There are times we post a video online, or I'm doing a live stream, then I say something, then after the live stream, somebody will send me a message and they'll fast check me. And they're like, yeah, you said this thing, but it's not like that. Then I need to correct them and let them know that, hey, this is what you have seen or said is just one part of it, but this is the whole scope of the thing which I was talking about. That is called full information, because when customers have access to information, you cannot then be the God that they would have to listen to at the end of the day. Then, when customers buy larger volumes, if the customer is buying a significant portion of our production, they are the ones giving us more money, then we will be trying to make sure that we don't offend the customer. These are the indicators of a strong bargaining power, of customers. Here's the play. If a customer of ours have a strong bargaining power, what do we do? So we have a customer, or we have customers who the switching cost is low, or we have a customer that buys significant portion of our production. What do we do? Number one, market development. Open ourselves up. Sell more. Enter new markets. Backward integration. Can we go and acquire them? Okay? Can we go and acquire them? It's possible. Because if they buy from us and they are using our product as an input to produce theirs, then we can go and acquire them in respect of that. Again, you should have some money. Or sometimes we can form strategic alliance with them. So this is why we say, hey, listen, you are buying 25% of our produce. We don't want to lose you. But here's the deal. There are a lot of suppliers, customers also that you can go for. But here's the deal. We can guarantee you that in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, we will not increase the price of our product. You will still buy it at the price that you are buying. That's strategic alliance. So although there are other competitors, we lock you in. Guarantee. Guarantee. And this is the strategy that telecommunication companies use a lot in Europe and America. So they don't care. They can give you free iPhone 17 Pro Max, free Samsung S26 Ultra, free. The only catch is it is locked. So you're going to use their services for 24 months. So every month, you're going to pay for their internet service. So you get a phone for free. Why? Because the bargaining power of customers is strong, is high. I don't know why this country, they are not doing some. MTN is not doing some. Imagine getting free phone. It's just unrealistic in our part of the world, right? Because an iPhone 17 Pro Max, depending on spacing, can be around 18,000 cedis, right, here in Ghana. How many people have the capacity to buy 18,000 cedis phone? Do you get the idea? And then if they buy it, how long will you let them pay for internet services? Because that's the deal. You get a phone for free, then you are locked for 24 months, then you pay internet. You pay for the internet service or the broadband service, whatever the heck, for over the period of 24 months. How many people can do that? But outside, that iPhone 17 Pro Max is a little over maybe $1,400 there. That is like 1,400 Ghana cedis also here, if we forget the exchange rate. So in absolute terms, $1,400. So no LFA, no co, we can divide that by 24. 1,004 divided by 24. And it's like $58 every month, plus the internet service and all those things. So yeah, they can give it to somebody and say, 36 months, you're going to pay $40 every month. And $40 every month. Again, forget the exchange rate, 40 Ghana cedis every month. So it's not realistic in Ghana. That's why it's not here in Ghana. All right, but those are the way we deal with the bargaining power of customers. Then the flip side is our suppliers, the people we buy from. Suppliers can also have bargaining power, but you see, there are categories of suppliers here. Got to be careful. We can look at the providers, the people who provide us with our core input. So if we produce Sobolo Soba, then the farmers who sell the Sobolo Soba leaves to us, the garlic farmers, the people we buy the bottles from, they are all going to be our suppliers. So the suppliers are made up of the people who provide us with the core input of our production. But as I told you earlier, labor is also a supplier here. So labor is also a supplier here. Then there will be providers of non-core input. So for instance, the printing company that we use to print the brands, the tags that we use to brand our bottle. Okay, the label on the bottle like this. What you see on the Awake bottle here. The company that prints it for us is also a supplier, but it's a supplier that is providing a non-core input. So the farmers who are giving us the Sobolo Soba leaves, garlic, they are core input suppliers. Then the suppliers, the printers, the printing press that produces this label will be non-core input. So when you are thinking about suppliers bargaining power under the Potter's 5 forces, that's how you think about it. So what are the indicators here? One, if there are only few suppliers available, they will have a strong bargaining power. So the farmers of Sobolo Soba leaves, if there are just a few of them, they will flex us. If we say one, they will say two. Because we are not the only people buying Sobolo Soba leaves. So they will say, yeah, now Sobolo Soba, the farming system, the water has come, so now the Sobolo Soba, 5 kilograms is $100. but usually it was $25. We can't do anything because there are just a few of them. So we'll be at their mercy. Specialized skills. If the labor in question is specialized skills, they will flex us. Like I said earlier, if they have a union, they will flex us. If the suppliers have association, we don't want it. Because if the suppliers have an association, then they can form a cartel. And then they can gang against all their customers in the market. So that's how you think about suppliers here. Okay. So let's say our suppliers have strong bargaining power. How do we navigate that? A couple of things. Backward integration, we can go and acquire them. Yeah, the farmers that are making noise, we go buy their farm and buy themselves as well so that they can work for us. Backward integration. The printing company that is doing guy on the printing thing, we buy the printing press. We buy the printing company so that we eliminate them from the system. Do you get the idea? That's the idea. Now, it then means that we then have to have the money for that. If not, then we can start our own input production ourselves. So the farmers who are doing guy, will also go and buy a farmland and then we'll cultivate our own sobolo soba leaves. They can't do anything to us. The printing press that is doing guy on the label printing, we will also start our own printing business. That's organic growth. So companies do that, like Apple has done that. That's why they ditch Intel and then they start using the M series chip, M1, M2, M3, and then the Apple Silicon in the iPhones and those things. Because that way it allows Apple to design their phones better, their laptops, MacBooks better, the iPads better, the AirPods better. Because the supplier, Intel, was putting limitation on how, and they were always at the mercy of Intel. So they decided, hey, listen, we want to design everything in-house. And that took Apple from one step to another. Or we can pre-finance their production. So we go to the farmers and say, hey, listen, then say, that you people are doing, you need money, right? If you go to the bank to borrow the money to start the cultivation, the bank will take interest of 30% and they will ask of your land document as collateral. Listen, we will give you whatever money you need from the bank at 0 interest rate. We don't want any interest. All we want is that if you finish, you sell all to us at a predetermined price. Boom. Who would turn that deal down? You are saving them literally, so they would jump on it. Only that we could have some fracadam farmers who they just want to mafia you for mafia's sake. We wouldn't want to take such deal. But on the overall, everybody will say yes. So that is pre-financing their production. Or we can use alternative inputs. Okay, so if you are looking for alcohol, we can get alcohol from maize. We can get alcohol from millet. We can get alcohol from cassava. We can get alcohol from sorghum, whatever the heck. So maybe we're using cassava, the farmers are flexing on us. Can we get the alcohol from maize and use that in the beverage and it won't change the taste? That's why sometimes some people you'll be taking, I don't want to mention any drinks, right? But you realize that you're like, these days, this drink, the taste has changed. Yes. The reason why the taste has changed and the fluidity of the beverage, or if you want, how is it called? The quality of the beverage has reduced or changed is because they are now using an alternative input. It's a way to deal with suppliers' bargaining power. Now, the main idea is that the alternative input should not affect the quality of the product. But many a times when companies do that, it affects the quality of the product. So that's why you will experience this. Be like, Nancy, drink way the drink way the sugar. Yeah. They are using alternative material, alternative input. And the reason is because suppliers are flexing on them and they have identified alternative material, so they are using it. That is the idea about this. Then the last one certainly is competitive rivalry. Okay, competitive rivalry strategy in the industry. So among the existing players, what is the level of competition among them? That is it. If the industry is highly competitive, then as a company, we would have to do some of these things here. We can acquire our competitors or merge with them. Do you understand? We can do customer loyalty so that our customers don't go to our competitors. We can lobby for laws that we think our competitors cannot meet, but we can meet, and take them out of the market. It's a strategy. That's the idea. So these are the 5 forces, how they impact the company, and what the company must do based on the level of impact that these forces have on the entity. And that brings me to the end on the industry analysis. In putting all these together, we then analyze the strategic capacity of the company, and that is the SWOT analysis. So the SWOT analysis brings the understanding from PESTLE, Porter's 5 forces, as the as the opportunities and threats. And then look at what is internally within the company, strength and weaknesses. And so the whole idea here, for instance, is that we want to look at the strength of the company, what the entity is endowed with, what gives the entity a competitive edge. So the entity has quality products, good customer relations, expert management or staff team. In some cases, the location of the company is a strength to it. The technology that the company is using, the user-friendly nature of the technology of the entity, all of those things are strength. Awards that the entity has received can be a strength. Recognitions can be a strength. Publications can be a strength. Social proof and reviews can be a strength of the company. These are the things that the entity is endowed with, which gives it competitive edge over the competitors. Weaknesses, on the other hand, are internal limitations which disadvantage the entity. So high labor turnover is a weakness. Low product quality is a weakness. Bad reputation is a weakness. Poor handling of customer requests or complaints is a weakness. Entities' negligence or neglect of environmental impact of its operations is a weakness. Exposure of the entity's online platforms to hacks and those things is a weakness. Poor internal controls is a weakness. All of these things are disadvantages and prevent the company in gaining sustainable competitive advantage. Then we go outside and look at opportunities. Opportunities are the various benefits available in the marketplace that the entity can take advantage of. That's opportunity. So when a government passes a new law, that new law can be an opportunity or can be a threat, depending on where we are standing. So when the Bank of Ghana came and said, hey, I've increased minimum capital from 120 million to 400 million, and I'm hearing something in the midst that they want to increase it to 400 million to 600 million sometime in the future. That was an opportunity for the big guys, the Ecobanks, the SGs, and others. For them to, because they know some people will not meet, so we can eat them for lunch and take their customers. But on the flip side, that becomes a threat. So that's why I was saying earlier that the macro environmental factors, the Porter's 5 forces, tell us about threats or opportunities. When two competitors merge, it is a threat to us. When a competitor is acquired by a multinational company, it's a threat to us. So in the telecommunication industry like this, when Airtel Tigo merged, I was like, whoa, MTN, you got to stand well. Because if Airtel and Tigo are merging, then they're going to give MTN a run for their money. It was one of the useless merger arrangements I've ever seen in my entire life. They finished merging, and the company just kept going down like that up to today. But Anchor, when two competitors merge like that, MTN will be shivering because that will be a threat for the MTN. But it turned out to be an opportunity rather. Because it's like MTN is like, hey, what else do you have? So MTN is like, what else do you have? Because your merger didn't work. What else do you have? Because we own the market. Literally. We own the market. So all those are threats and the opportunities. So that's why I said to determine whether something is a threat or opportunity depends on where you are standing. And it has to be external. Do you get the idea? You have to be external to the company. Those are the ideas about SWOT analysis. So again, in a given scenario, you need to find out what is the entity endowed with. The entity has good corporate governance. That's a strength. The management of the entities are knowledgeable about the industry and the business. That's a strength. The entity has a succession planning in place. That's a strength. All those things, when you flip them up, they become weaknesses. So if the entity has poor corporate governance, they don't have committees of the board, they don't have non-executive directors on their board, that's a weakness. There is no succession planning in place. In other words, if the top manager dies or is no longer there, we don't know where the company will be. It's a weakness. Do you understand it? Now, not to cause any problem, right? But for instance, the Kantanka automobile, right? You realize that when the father died, may his soul rest in peace, there was a little fraction. There is still some fraction. Because the gentleman who was the face of the Kantanka automobile, leading everything, immediately the man died, apparently they said the will of the man or whatever had changed. So now he is nowhere to be found. Recently, when the children did a press conference about the funeral, he was not even there. And he was not even mentioned. So those are some of that's a weakness for the company. Because if care is not taken, the Kantanka empire, because he had led the company for a long time, he has a lot of knowledge, experience, expertise about the businesses. He was the group CEO. He was the face of the company, literally. Now he is nowhere to be found. That's a weakness. And that is the succession planning issue. If it is not done well, a good company that has been built, once the leader is not there, the company may no longer be there. I'm not saying that is what will happen to the Kantanka automobile. I'm just using that as an example, that now that the man is no longer there, you see the frictions happening. And that's a weakness. Those are the things you must understand when we talk about SWOT analysis. And I'm going to wrap up around here today. God willing, next week, we will come in, touch on some few other of the models, share my thoughts on governance a little bit, give you guidelines on how you are supposed to look at the pre-scene as we bring ourselves up to the pre-scene discussion from next 2 weeks and make sense of all of these things and crystallize something. So as I said in the beginning, please, the financial issues that you see in the exam, 20 marks, is waiting for you. It's waiting for you. Everything there, you've done it already. Investment appraisal, working capital management, treasury management, ratio analysis. You've done them already. Go and watch the key summary videos on them if you have forgotten. Because you will see it there. One of them will be there for 20 marks. Check the past questions. You will see it there. It's waiting for you. So you have to make sure you revise them. So that the only thing that I have to be bothered about, in addition to strategic analysis, strategy choice, and strategy implementation, will be the governance area, which we are going to be talking about as well. Going to be sharing some thoughts as we continue with the discussion, because we're going to have 20 marks question on governance, and we have to know some things in respect of it. So that's it about that. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you on the next one. Au revoir.